Shy CEO hires a young woman on contract to have a baby, discovers she's a virgin and falls in love. The sleek elevator glided upward, its polished walls reflecting Maxwell Walker's impeccable appearance. At 34, he commanded attention without effort. His tailored charcoal suit and precisely knotted tie, speaking of wealth and power. But today, something was different in his steel-grey eyes, a flicker of anticipation, perhaps even vulnerability. The doors opened to the 47th floor of Walker Industries, headquarters in downtown Manhattan. His Italian leather shoes moved silently across the marble floor as he made his way to his corner office, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of the city below. "Your 9 a.m. is here," his assistant announced through the intercom. "Dr. Richardson from the fertility clinic." Maxwell pressed a button. "Send her in." Dr. Richardson entered, a distinguished woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes that had seen countless families begin their journeys. "Mr. Walker, always punctual." "Time is money, doctor. Please, have a seat." As she settled into one of the elegant leather chairs facing his desk, Maxwell remained standing, his gaze fixed on the city sprawling beneath them. "I've reviewed all the documentation. The process seems straightforward enough." "On paper, yes," Dr. Richardson agreed, "but emotionally, I'm not interested in emotions." Maxwell cut in smoothly, turning to face her. "I need an heir. Nothing more, nothing less." Across town, in a modest apartment in Queens, Naomi Carter stood before her bathroom mirror, adjusting her elaborately styled braids. Her reflection showed a beautiful young woman of 24, with high cheekbones, warm brown eyes, and skin the color of rich mahogany. But those eyes held worry today, despite her attempt at a confident smile. "Baby, you haven't touched your breakfast," her mother called weakly from the next room. Naomi's heart clenched. Rose Carter lay in her bed, surrounded by medication bottles and medical equipment, her once vibrant face now gaunt from illness. "I'll eat later, Mama. Just making sure I look professional for this interview." The interview wasn't exactly what she'd told her mother, the newspaper clipping burned in her pocket. "Seeking healthy surrogate mother. Generous compensation. No future contact required." The words had haunted her since her best friend Jasmine had shown her the ad 3 days ago. "You're crazy," Jasmine had said, watching Naomi dial the number. "Being a surrogate? That's not you." But the mounting medical bills and her mother's deteriorating condition left her no choice. Her job as a junior copywriter barely covered their basic needs, let alone the experimental treatment that might save her mother's life. The fertility clinic was housed in a sterile, modern building that made Naomi feel small in her carefully chosen second-hand outfit. The receptionist directed her to a private consultation room where Dr. Richardson waited. "Ms. Carter," the doctor greeted her warmly. "Thank you for coming in. Before we proceed, I want to ensure you understand what you're considering." Naomi sat straight-backed in her chair. "I've done my research, doctor. I know what surrogacy entails." Dr. Richardson studied her carefully. "The psychological evaluation suggests you're an excellent candidate. Stable, intelligent, healthy. But there's something you're not telling us." Naomi's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. "I'm an open book. Your medical history shows no previous pregnancies, no gynecological issues, but also no—" the doctor paused delicately. "No intimate relationships." Heat crept up Naomi's neck. "Is that a problem?" "It's unusual. Most surrogates have had previous pregnancies. They understand what they're undertaking." "I understand enough," Naomi insisted. "I'm healthy, I'm committed, and I need—" She caught herself. "I want to help create a family." Back in his office, Maxwell reviewed the surrogate candidates of files. Most were predictable, women with previous surrogate experience, married with children of their own. But one file caught his attention. Naomi Carter. Something about her photo struck him. Not just her obvious beauty, but a determination in her eyes that seemed to challenge him through the paper. His intercom buzzed. "Sir, the background check on Naomi Carter just came in." Maxwell opened the digital file. As he read, his eyebrows rose slightly. A sick mother, mounting medical bills. A woman fighting against impossible odds. It wasn't the typical profile he'd expected. That evening, Naomi sat beside her mother's bed, holding her thin hand. "Mama, how are you feeling?" Rose Carter's eyes fluttered open. "Better when you're here, baby." She squeezed Naomi's hand weakly. "You work too hard, always worried about me instead of living your life." "You are my life, Mama." "That's not right. You should be out there, falling in love, having adventures. Naomi's throat tightened. If only her mother knew what she was considering. Sometimes love looks different than we expect. Later that night, in his penthouse apartment, Maxwell stood at his window, nursing a glass of scotch. The city lights twinkled below, but his mind was on the file he'd read. Something about Naomi Carter's story needled at him, challenging his carefully constructed plans. His phone rang. Dr. Richardson. Mr. Walker, we've completed all evaluations. Mr. Carter is our top candidate. However, I should mention, send the contract. Maxwell interrupted. I've made my decision. The next morning, Naomi received the call she'd been both hoping for and dreading. She'd been chosen. The compensation mentioned made her hands shake, enough to cover her mother's treatment and then some. As she signed the contract, her hand steady despite her racing heart, Naomi couldn't know that across town, Maxwell Walker was signing his own copy, neither of them aware that their lives were about to intertwine in ways no contract could anticipate or control. The final clause stared up at her. No personal contact with the biological father required or expected. Naomi's pen hesitated for just a moment before signing her name with a flourish. It was just business after all, a simple transaction. But as she left the clinic, contract tucked safely in her bag, she couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just signed up for something far more complicated than she'd bargained for. The spring breeze carried the scent of blooming cherry blossoms, and somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbled. A storm approaching, much like the one about to engulf both their lives. Maxwell Walker didn't do impulsive. Every decision in his life was calculated, measured and executed with precision, yet here he was, standing in his office at 7 a.m., reviewing Naomi Carter's file for the third time that morning. Something about her story wouldn't let him rest. Sir, his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. Dr. Richardson is on line 1. She says it's urgent. Maxwell picked up the phone, his fingers drumming against his mahogany desk. Dr. Richardson, what can I do for you? Mr. Walker, I strongly advise meeting the surrogate before proceeding. It's not standard protocol, but in this case, I thought the point of this arrangement was to avoid personal involvement, he interrupted, his voice cool and controlled. Sometimes, Mr. Walker, the best business decisions require a personal touch. The words hung in the air, challenging his carefully constructed boundaries. After a long pause, Maxwell spoke. Set up the meeting today. Across town, Naomi was having her own morning crisis. She stood in front of her closet, discarding outfit after outfit onto her bed. The call from the clinic had come just 30 minutes ago, an urgent meeting with the biological father. Her heart raced at the thought. Baby? Her mother called from the next room. Everything all right? Naomi forced cheerfulness into her voice. Just a last-minute meeting at work, Mama. Nothing to worry about. She finally settled on a knee-length navy dress that she'd bought on sale last year, professional, but not trying too hard. As she arranged her braids into an elegant updo, her hands trembled slightly. What kind of man would spend a fortune to have a child but want nothing to do with its mother? The clinic's waiting room was empty when Naomi arrived, except for a distinguished-looking woman in her 50s, whom she recognized as Dr. Richardson. The doctor smiled warmly. Miss Carter, thank you for coming on such short notice. Before Naomi could respond, the elevator doors opened. The man who stepped out made her breath catch in her throat. Tall, impossibly well-dressed in a perfectly tailored grey suit, with dark hair and striking steel-grey eyes, he moved with the confident grace of someone who owned every room he entered. Mr. Walker, Dr. Richardson greeted him. Thank you for joining us. Maxwell's eyes locked with Naomi's, and for a moment, the world seemed to still. She was even more striking in person than in her photo, tall, elegant, with a quiet strength in her bearing that commanded attention. The vanilla and jasmine scent of her perfume reached him, subtle but intoxicating. Ms. Carter, he said, his voice deep and controlled. Shall we? He gestured toward the conference room. The meeting room felt smaller than it was, charged with an energy none of them had anticipated. Dr. Richardson sat at the head of the table, with Maxwell and Naomi on opposite sides. Now, Dr. Richardson began, I know this is unusual, but I believe it's important for both parties to have a clear understanding of why did you choose this? Maxwell interrupted, his eyes fixed on Naomi. The truth, please. Naomi met his gaze steadily, though her heart hammered in her chest. Would you believe altruism? A slight smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. I believe in honesty. Mrs. Carter. She took a deep breath. My mother is sick. The treatment she needs isn't covered by insurance. I have my reasons, just as I'm sure you have yours. Something flickered in Maxwell's eyes. Recognition, perhaps. He leaned forward slightly. And you're comfortable with the arrangement? No contact after? Are you? Naomi challenged, surprising herself with her boldness. The tension in the room crackled. Dr. Richardson cleared her throat. Joyce, perhaps we should review the medical protocol. I'd like to speak with Mrs. Carter alone, Maxwell said, his eyes never leaving Naomi's face. Dr. Richardson hesitated. Mr. Walker, that's not... It's okay, Naomi interjected. I don't mind. After Dr. Richardson left, the room fell into a heavy silence. Maxwell stood, walking to the window. Your file says you're a copywriter. Yes, though I doubt that's relevant to our arrangement. He turned to face her. Everything is relevant, Ms. Carter. I don't leave anything to chance. Except having a stranger carry your child. The words hung between them, bold and challenging. To her surprise, Maxwell laughed, a genuine sound that transformed his face, making him look younger, more approachable. You're not what I expected, he admitted. Neither are you, she replied softly. He moved closer, and Naomi caught the subtle scent of his cologne, something woodsy and expensive. I'd like to modify our arrangement. Her heart sank. You're backing out. No, he said quickly, but I'd like to be involved during the pregnancy, to ensure everything goes smoothly. The contract specifically states, I'm aware of what the contract states. I wrote it. He paused, studying her face. But contracts can be amended. Naomi stood, needing to feel on equal footing. Why? Because something tells me you're different, Miss Carter, and I've learned to trust my instincts in business. Is that all this is to you? Business? Their eyes met again, and this time the connection between them was almost palpable. Maxwell took a step closer, close enough that Naomi could see the flecks of silver in his gray eyes. What if I said no? He asked softly. What if this is something else entirely? Before Naomi could respond, her phone buzzed, a text from her mother's caregiver. Her hands shook as she read it. I have to go. My mother, understanding, flickered across Maxwell's face. Let me drive you. That's not necessary. Please, he said, and something in his voice made her pause. Let me help. The ride to her apartment was silent, but charged with unspoken words. Maxwell's driver navigated through the city streets, while Naomi tried to calm her racing thoughts. What was she doing in this luxury car with this enigmatic man who seemed to see right through her carefully constructed walls? As they pulled up to her building, Maxwell spoke, Have dinner with me tomorrow night. Naomi turned to him, startled. I don't think that's a good idea. Because of the contract, or because you're afraid? Both, she answered honestly. He smiled, and the warmth of it reached his eyes. Good. Honesty is a start. I'll send a car at 7. Before she could protest, he was opening her door, helping her out. His hand lingered on hers for a moment longer than necessary, sending sparks of electricity up her arm. As she watched his car drive away, Naomi realized with startling clarity that her life was about to become far more complicated than any contract could have prepared her for. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, complicated wasn't such a bad thing after all. Naomi stood in front of her mirror, her heart racing as the clock ticked closer to 7. She'd spent the entire day alternating between wanting to cancel and wanting time to move faster. The dress she'd chosen, a simple black wrap dress she'd treated herself to last Christmas, felt both perfect and completely inadequate for dinner with Maxwell Walker. You look beautiful, baby, her mother's voice came from the doorway. Rose Carter was having one of her better days, able to move around with just her walker. Got a date? Naomi's hands froze on her earrings. Just a business dinner, Mama. Rose's knowing smile said she didn't believe that for a second. Must be some business. You're wearing your special perfume. Before Naomi could respond, her phone buzzed with a text. Car waiting downstairs. Her stomach did a little flip. Don't wait up, Mama. Clara will be here soon for your evening care. Rose caught her daughter's hand as she passed. Naomi, whatever this is, you deserve some happiness, baby. Remember that. The words followed her down to the waiting car, a sleek black Mercedes with tinted windows. The driver opened the door, and Naomi's breath caught. Maxwell sat inside, looking devastatingly handsome in a dark blue suit that made his grey eyes seem even more intense. You look stunning, he said simply. his gaze traveling over her with an appreciation that made her skin tingle. "Thank you." She settled into the soft leather seat, acutely aware of his presence beside her. "I thought you'd send a car, not come yourself. I prefer to be hands-on with things that matter." His voice was low, intimate in the confined space. The restaurant was exactly what she'd expected from Maxwell Walker, exclusive, elegant, with views overlooking Central Park. The maitre d' led them to a private corner table, partially screened by elegant plants. "Wine?" Maxwell asked as they settled in. Naomi hesitated. "I probably shouldn't, given the circumstances." His eyes softened with understanding. "Of course. My apologies. Sparkling water." As they ordered, Naomi couldn't help but notice how the staff treated Maxwell, not with the usual deference shown to wealthy patrons, but with genuine warmth. He knew their names, asked about their families. "You seem surprised," he noted, catching her observation. "You're different than I expected," she admitted. "Less cold? Robotic? I've heard the rumors." His smile held a hint of self-deprecation. "Human," she finished. "You're more human than I expected." Something flickered in his eyes. "Tell me about your mother." The question caught her off guard. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. What she was like before she got sick. What makes her laugh. Why you'd do anything for her." Naomi found herself talking, really talking, about her mother, about the woman who'd raised her alone after her father died, who'd worked 3 jobs to put her through college, who'd taught her that strength wasn't about never falling, but about getting back up. "She sounds remarkable," Maxwell said softly when she finished. Like her daughter. Heat crept up Naomi's neck. "Your turn. Why this? Why a surrogate? Why me?" Maxwell was quiet for a long moment, swirling the scotch in his glass. "My parents died when I was 12. Car accident. I was raised by a series of nannies and trustees, all focused on preparing me to take over the family business. That must have been lonely. It was efficient." His voice was carefully neutral. "But it taught me something. Family isn't just about blood, it's about choice. And you chose to have a child alone. I chose to have a child without complications. No custody battles. No emotional manipulation. No—" He paused, meeting her eyes. "No risk of loss. Life is risk," Naomi said softly. "Love is risk. Is that why you've never been in a relationship?" The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Naomi's heart thundered in her chest. "How did you—" "Your medical records. I know everything about you, Naomi, except why." She took a shaky breath. "Maybe I was waiting for something real." The intensity in his gaze made her feel exposed, seen in a way she'd never experienced before. "And now? Now, I'm having dinner with a man who wants me to carry his child, but claims he doesn't want complications." She leaned forward slightly. "Why did you really ask me to dinner, Maxwell?" He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. The touch sent electricity through her body. "Because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since we met. Because you challenge everything I thought I wanted. Because—" His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Maxwell checked it, his expression darkening. "I have to take this. Business emergency. I'm sorry." Naomi watched as he stepped away to take the call, his shoulders tense. When he returned, his face was apologetic. "I need to go to the office. There's a situation that requires my immediate attention." "Of course." She tried to hide her disappointment. "I understand." "No," he said firmly, surprising her. "You don't understand. I've never left a business dinner for anything less than a crisis, and I've never regretted having to leave until now." The ride back to her apartment was quiet, charged with unspoken words. When they arrived, Maxwell walked her to her door despite her protests. "Thank you for tonight," she said, fumbling with her keys. "Naomi," his voice stopped her. "The contract, the arrangement. Maybe we should—" "Don't." She turned to face him. "Don't change anything. Not tonight." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. "What if I want to change everything?" Their eyes met, and the world seemed to stop. Maxwell's hand came up to cup her cheek, his thumb brushing softly across her skin. Naomi's heart pounded so hard she was sure he could hear it. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. Instead, she leaned into his touch, her eyes fluttering closed. His lips brushed hers, soft at first, then with increasing intensity. The kiss was everything, tender, passionate, terrifying in its implications. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, reality came crashing back. Naomi stepped back, her hand on the doorknob. "Good night, Maxwell." He caught her hand, pressing a kiss to her palm that made her knees weak. "Dream of me." As she closed the door behind her, Naomi leaned against it, trying to steady her racing heart. On the other side, Maxwell stood for a long moment, his forehead pressed against the wood, both of them aware that everything had just become infinitely more complicated, and neither of them wanting it any other way. 3 days had passed since the kiss, and Maxwell couldn't focus on anything else. He sat in his office, staring at contracts that needed his signature, but his mind kept drifting to the softness of Naomi's lips, the way she'd felt in his arms, the subtle scent of vanilla and jasmine that lingered in his memory. "Sir?" His assistant's voice snapped him back to reality. "The board is waiting in the conference room." Maxwell straightened his tie, forcing himself back into CEO mode. Yet as he strode into the conference room, his phone buzzed with a text from Dr. Richardson. "Ms. Carter's first prenatal appointment is tomorrow. Will you be attending?" His heart rate quickened. He hadn't seen Naomi since that night, hadn't trusted himself to maintain professional boundaries if he did, but missing her first appointment, that felt wrong on a level he couldn't quite explain. Across town, Naomi sat in her mother's hospital room, trying to focus on her laptop as she worked remotely. Rose was having another round of tests, leaving Naomi alone with her thoughts that kept circling back to Maxwell's kiss. "Ms. Carter," a nurse appeared at the door. "Your mother's asking for you." Naomi found Rose sitting up in bed, looking more alert than she had in days. "Baby, you've been distracted all morning. Is it about tomorrow's appointment?" "Just work stuff, Mama." The lie felt heavy on her tongue. Rose reached for her daughter's hand. "You know what I miss most about being healthy? Dancing. Your father and I used to dance in the kitchen while making dinner. That's how love should feel, like dancing even when there's no music." Naomi's throat tightened. "Mama, I see the way you check your phone, the way you smile at texts when you think I'm sleeping. Someone's making your heart dance, baby." Before Naomi could respond, her phone lit up with a message from Maxwell. "I'd like to attend tomorrow's appointment, if you're comfortable with that." Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Was she comfortable with that after that kiss, after the way he'd looked at her, after the feelings she couldn't seem to control? "Yes," she typed back, before she could change her mind. 1 p.m. at Dr. Richardson's office. The next day, Naomi arrived early, her nerves making her restless. She wore a simple sundress, her braids arranged in an elegant crown around her head. The waiting room was empty, except for a young couple who looked blissfully happy, the woman's small baby bump visible under her flowing top. The elevator dinged, and Maxwell stepped out. He looked impeccable as always in a light grey suit, but there were subtle signs of strain around his eyes. Their gazes met, and the air seemed to crackle with electricity. "Naomi," he said softly, coming to stand beside her, "you look lovely." Before she could respond, Dr. Richardson appeared. "Ah, good. You're both here. Shall we begin?" The examination room felt intimate in a way Naomi hadn't anticipated. Maxwell stood near the door, his presence both comforting and unsettling as Dr. Richardson performed the initial examination. "Everything looks perfect," the doctor announced. "Now for the procedure." "Actually," Naomi interrupted, her heart pounding, "I need to tell you both something." She took a deep breath. "I don't think I can go through with the artificial insemination." The room fell silent. Maxwell stepped forward, his face unreadable. "Naomi, if this is about the other night, it's about everything." She met his eyes. "I can't pretend this is just business anymore. Not after—" "Ms. Carter," Dr. Richardson interjected gently, "perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No," Maxwell said firmly. "She's right." He moved closer to Naomi, his voice dropping low. "I can't pretend either." Dr. Richardson looked between them, understanding dawning on her face. "I see. Well, this certainly changes things. I'll give you two a moment." After she left, the silence stretched between them, heavy with possibility. "I haven't been able to stop thinking about you," Maxwell admitted, running a hand through his hair in an uncharacteristically nervous gesture. "About that kiss. About everything." "Me, neither." Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. He closed the distance between them, his hand coming up to cup her face. "The contract, the arrangement, none of it matters. What matters is how I feel when I'm with you. How everything in my carefully ordered life suddenly seems meaningless compared to making you smile." Naomi's heart raced. "Maxwell, have dinner with me again. Tonight, no business, no contracts, no pretense. Just us." "Your world and mine are so different," she protested weakly. Then let me into your world. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Let me take you somewhere you choose, somewhere that matters to you. Naomi thought for a moment, then smiled. There's this little jazz club in Brooklyn. Live music, amazing soul food. My parents used to go there when they were dating. The surprise and pleasure on Maxwell's face made her heart flutter. It sounds perfect. That evening, Maxwell found himself in a small intimate club filled with the sounds of sultry jazz and laughter. The place was nothing like his usual haunts, no elaborate wine lists or Michelin stars, but watching Naomi in her element, her face glowing as she swayed to the music, he'd never felt more at home. "Dance with me," she said suddenly, holding out her hand. "I don't usually break the rules." Her eyes sparkled with challenge. "Sometimes the best things in life happen when we do." He took her hand, pulling her close as the band played a slow, romantic tune. Her body fit perfectly against his, her head resting on his shoulder as they swayed together. "My mother told me something yesterday," Naomi murmured. "She said love should feel like dancing even when there's no music." Maxwell's arms tightened around her. "And how does this feel?" She lifted her head to look at him, her eyes soft in the dim light. "ABBA like music I've been waiting my whole life to hear." This time when he kissed her, there was no hesitation, no thoughts of contracts or arrangements or differences between their worlds. There was only the music, the warmth of her in his arms, and the feeling that something monumental was shifting in both their lives. Later, as they stood outside her apartment, neither wanted the evening to end. "Stay," Naomi whispered, surprising them both. Maxwell's eyes darkened with desire, but he shook his head. "Not tonight. When I make love to you for the first time, it won't be because we got caught up in the moment. It'll be because we both know exactly what we want." His words sent shivers down her spine. "And what do you want, Maxwell Walker?" He pressed his forehead to hers. "Everything. With you, I want everything." As she watched him leave, Naomi touched her lips, still tingling from his kiss. The practical voice in her head warned her about fairy tales and reality, about business moguls and girls from Queens, about all the ways this could end in heartbreak. But her heart was dancing to a melody only love could play. The penthouse apartment felt different tonight. Maxwell stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights twinkle below, every nerve in his body alive with anticipation. He'd spent hours preparing, selecting the perfect wine, though he wouldn't drink, arranging for dinner to be catered by the city's most exclusive restaurant, making sure everything was perfect, because tonight wasn't about business or contracts or heirs. Tonight was about Naomi. His phone buzzed with a text from his driver. "Ms. Carter is in the car." Maxwell's heart rate quickened. They'd been seeing each other every day for the past week. Lunch breaks stolen between meetings, evening walks in Central Park, late-night phone calls that lasted until dawn. But tonight felt different, special. The elevator doors opened, and Maxwell's breath caught. Naomi stood there in a deep burgundy dress that hugged her curves, her braids cascading over one shoulder in an intricate pattern. But it was her eyes that captivated him, warm, nervous, excited. "Hi," she said softly. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pulling her into a kiss that made them both forget to breathe. When they finally parted, Naomi laughed softly. "I guess you missed me." "Every second," he admitted, surprising himself with his honesty. "Come, dinner's waiting." He led her to the dining room, where the table was set with fine china and crystal, candles casting a warm glow. A private chef emerged from the kitchen, serving course after course of exquisite cuisine. "This is amazing," Naomi said, tasting the perfectly prepared salmon. "But you didn't have to go to all this trouble." Maxwell reached across the table, taking her hand. "You deserve everything amazing in this world." After dinner, they moved to the balcony. The night was warm. The city spread out before them like a carpet of stars. Naomi leaned against the railing, and Maxwell wrapped his arms around her from behind, pulling her close. "What are you thinking?" he murmured against her ear. She turned in his arms. "That this feels like a dream, that I'm afraid to wake up. It's real." His fingers traced her cheek. "We're real." Their lips met in a kiss that started gentle, but quickly blazed into something more. Naomi's hands slid into his hair as Maxwell pulled her closer, every point of contact between them electric. "Stay with me tonight," he whispered against her lips. Naomi pulled back slightly, her eyes meeting his. "Maxwell, there's something you should know." She took a deep breath. "I've never—" Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed by a tenderness that made her heart ache. "I know," he said softly. "Dr. Richardson's report mentioned it, And you're not disappointed? He cupped her face in his hands. Naomi, nothing about you could ever disappoint me. If anything, it makes me want you more, knowing I'll be your first, your only. The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down her spine. I want you, she whispered. I trust you. Maxwell's eyes darkened with desire, but he forced himself to speak. Are you sure? We don't have to. She silenced him with a kiss. Take me to bed, Maxwell. He lifted her into his arms, carrying her through the penthouse to his bedroom. The room was massive, with the same floor-to-ceiling windows, but Naomi barely noticed the luxurious surroundings. All she could focus on was Maxwell, the strength of his arms around her, the racing of his heart against her palm. He laid her on the bed with infinite care, like she was something precious. His eyes never left hers as he slowly unzipped her dress, his fingers trailing fire along her skin. You're beautiful, he breathed, watching the fabric pool at her feet. So incredibly beautiful. Naomi's fingers trembled as she unbuttoned his shirt, revealing the sculpted planes of his chest. Every touch was a discovery, every kiss an exploration. Maxwell took his time, learning her body with reverent hands and tender kisses until she was trembling with need. Please, she whispered. He paused, looking into her eyes. I love you, he said suddenly, the words falling from his lips like a prayer. I know it's too soon, but I do. I love you, Naomi Carter. Tears pricked at her eyes. I love you too. Their first time was everything. Tender, passionate, perfect in its imperfection. Maxwell was infinitely gentle, watching her face for any sign of discomfort, kissing away the brief pain until there was only pleasure. Afterward, they lay tangled in the sheets, Naomi's head on his chest as he stroked her back. The city lights painted patterns on their skin through the windows, but neither noticed, lost in their own world. What are you thinking? Naomi asked, tracing patterns on his chest. That I never want to let you go. He tightened his arms around her. That everything in my life before you seems meaningless now. She lifted her head to look at him. Even your plans. The surrogate arrangement. Especially that. He tucked a stray braid behind her ear. I don't want a clinical arrangement anymore. I want a family. With you, if you'll have me. Naomi's heart soared, but before she could respond, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She reached for it, her face paling as she read the message. What's wrong? Maxwell sat up, instantly alert. My mother. Naomi's voice shook. She's being rushed to the hospital. Something about her heart. Maxwell was already moving, grabbing clothes. Get dressed. We'll take my car. The drive to the hospital was a blur. Maxwell held her hand the entire way, his thumb rubbing soothing circles on her palm as she tried not to panic. When they arrived, he used his influence to get immediate information about Rose's condition. She's stable, the doctor told them, but she'll need surgery. The procedure is experimental, and her insurance won't cover it. Cost isn't an issue, Maxwell said immediately. Give her the best care possible. Naomi turned to him, tears in her eyes. Maxwell, I can't let you. You can, and you will. His voice was firm but gentle. Let me do this, not because of any arrangement, but because I love you, because Rose is family now. She collapsed into his arms, finally letting the tears fall. Maxwell held her close, murmuring soft words of comfort as hospital staff bustled around them. Hours later, as they sat in the waiting room, Naomi suddenly stiffened in his arms. Oh God, what is it? We didn't use protection. Her voice was barely a whisper. Tonight, Maxwell's eyes widened as the implication hit him. Their perfect night of love might have just complicated everything in ways neither of them had anticipated. He tilted her face up to his. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, I promise you that. As the sun began to rise over the city, painting the hospital waiting room in soft pinks and golds, they held each other close, two hearts beating as one, facing an uncertain future with nothing but love and trust to guide them. Dawn crept through the hospital windows, casting long shadows across the waiting room, where Naomi sat curled in an uncomfortable chair, Maxwell's suit jacket draped over her shoulders. The events of the past 24 hours felt surreal. Their perfect evening, their first time together, and now this. Here, Maxwell appeared with 2 cups of coffee, looking surprisingly put together despite having spent the night in the hospital. It's not your usual vanilla latte, but it's hot. She accepted the cup gratefully, their fingers brushing. Even that small contact sent electricity through her body, memories of their passionate night flooding back. Any word from the doctors? They're prepping your mother for surgery now. He sat beside her, taking her free hand. The specialist I called in from Boston arrived an hour ago. He's one of the best cardiothoracic surgeons in the country. Naomi's throat tightened. Maxwell, the cost of all this is not something you need to worry about. His voice was firm, but gentle. Let me take care of this, please. Before she could respond, a nurse approached. Miss Carter, your mother's asking for you. Rose looked small in the hospital bed, surrounded by beeping machines, but her eyes lit up when she saw Naomi. Baby? Her gaze shifted to Maxwell, who hung back respectfully. And you must be the reason my daughter's been smiling so much lately. Maxwell stepped forward, taking Rose's frail hand. Mrs. Carter, I'm Maxwell Walker. I'm in love with your daughter. The simple, direct statement brought tears to Naomi's eyes. Rose smiled knowingly. About time you admitted it. I could see it in her eyes weeks ago. Mama. Naomi's voice cracked. Now don't you worry about me. Rose squeezed their hands. I've got too much to live for. I need to be around to see my grandchildren after all. The word hung in the air, making both Naomi and Maxwell tense slightly. Neither had voiced their concerns about their unprotected night together, but the possibility weighed heavily on their minds. After Rose was wheeled into surgery, the waiting began again. Maxwell had to step away for an emergency board meeting, but he refused to leave the hospital, instead conducting it via video conference from an empty consultation room. Naomi watched through the glass as he spoke authoritatively to his board members, every inch the powerful CEO, even in his slightly rumpled suit. How had her life changed so dramatically in just a few weeks? Her phone buzzed, a calendar reminder for her next appointment with Dr. Richardson scheduled for tomorrow. Her heart raced as she realized what that meant. If she was pregnant from their night together, it was too soon to know. But the original surrogacy plan, everything okay? Maxwell had finished his meeting and returned to her side. Just thinking about tomorrow's appointment with Dr. Richardson. Understanding flickered in his eyes. He pulled her into a quiet corner of the waiting room. We need to talk about that. About everything. I know. She couldn't quite meet his eyes. The surrogacy contract. Forget the contract. His voice was intense. Naomi, look at me. She raised her eyes to his, finding them filled with emotion. I meant what I said last night. I want a family with you, not through some clinical arrangement, but because we love each other. If you're pregnant from last night, I'll be overjoyed. If you're not, we can try again. The natural way. Together. And if I am, her voice trembled, your board, your shareholders, they'll think I planned this, that I seduced you for your money. Let them think what they want. He cupped her face in his hands. I know the truth. I know your heart. A doctor appeared before she could respond. Miss Carter, your mother's out of surgery. They rushed to the recovery room, where Rose lay sleeping peacefully, her vital signs strong and steady. The surgeon looked pleased. The procedure was successful, he explained. With proper care and rehabilitation, she should make a full recovery. Relief flooded through Naomi, making her knees weak. Maxwell's arm around her waist steadied her. Later that evening, with Rose resting comfortably and showing positive signs, Maxwell insisted on taking Naomi home to rest. His driver brought them to her apartment, but when they arrived, she couldn't bear the thought of being alone. Stay, she whispered, echoing his words from their first night together. He followed her inside, taking in the modest but warmly decorated apartment. Photos of Naomi and Rose covered the walls, telling the story of their close bond. On the kitchen counter, medical bills were stacked neatly beside insurance rejection letters. Maxwell picked up one of the letters, his jaw tightening as he read it. Without a word, he pulled out his phone and made a call. This is Maxwell Walker. I need you to handle all of Rose Carter's medical expenses, past and future. Yes, everything. And I want it done quietly. He paused, listening. No, this isn't a business matter. This is personal. Naomi watched him, tears filling her eyes. When he hung up, she launched herself into his arms. Why are you so good to me? He held her close, breathing in her familiar vanilla and jasmine scent. Because you make me want to be better. Because you see past the CEO to the man underneath. Because loving you is as natural as breathing. They made love again that night, slower and sweeter than their first time, both of them aware that their lives were changing irrevocably. Afterward, as they lay tangled in her modest queen-sized bed, so different from his luxurious penthouse but somehow more intimate, Maxwell traced patterns on her bare shoulder. Move in with me, he said suddenly. Naomi propped herself up on an elbow. What? Move in with me, both you and your mother, once she's recovered. My penthouse has plenty of space, and the building has excellent security and medical facilities. Maxwell, she bit her lip. It's too soon. What will people say? They'll say I'm in love. He pulled her closer. They'll say I finally found what I've been looking for my whole life. They'll say I'm the luckiest man in New York. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. It was Dr. Richardson, confirming tomorrow's appointment. Given recent developments, we should discuss your options. Reality crashed back in. Tomorrow they would have to face the consequences of their actions, the possibility of pregnancy, the abandoned surrogacy contract, the mixing of business and pleasure that could scandalize Maxwell's corporate world. But as she lay in his arms, watching the city lights play across his sleeping face, Naomi realized something profound. Sometimes the best things in life come from breaking all the rules. Dr. Richardson's office felt different this time. Naomi sat in the familiar examination room, but instead of the clinical distance of their previous visits, Maxwell held her hand, his thumb tracing soothing circles on her palm. The original surrogacy contract lay forgotten in her bag, now just a reminder of how differently things had turned out. "Well, Doctor," Richardson said, looking between them with a mixture of concern and amusement, "this is certainly not how I expected our arrangement to progress." "Life has a way of surprising us," Maxwell replied, his grip on Naomi's hand tightening slightly. The doctor nodded, reviewing her notes. "Given the timing, it's too early to confirm pregnancy from your recent encounter. However, we need to discuss your options moving forward." "Options?" Naomi's voice wavered slightly. "The original surrogacy contract is clearly void now. But if you wish to proceed with starting a family naturally..." Dr. Richardson paused, choosing her words carefully. "I'd recommend waiting at least 3 months. Give yourselves time to adjust to these changes." Maxwell leaned forward. "And if she's already pregnant, then we'll provide the best prenatal care possible." The doctor's eyes softened. "Though I must say, in all my years of practice, this is the first time I've had a surrogacy arrangement turn into a love story." After the appointment, they walked through Central Park, both lost in thought. The spring air was warm, cherry blossoms floating on the breeze, but Naomi felt a chill of uncertainty. "You're quiet," Maxwell observed, guiding her to a secluded bench overlooking the lake. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Everything's happening so fast. Last month, I was just trying to help my mother. Now I might be pregnant. You want us to move in, and your whole world is about to be turned upside down because of me." He turned to face her, his grey eyes intense. "My world was upside down the moment I met you. Everything before you feels like I was sleeping, just going through the motions. But your company, your reputation, will survive." He cupped her face in his hands. "The board might grumble, the society pages might gossip, but none of that matters. What matters is that I love you, and if you're carrying our child, it will be the greatest gift of my life." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "How do you always know exactly what to say?" "Because with you, I can finally be honest about what I feel." He wiped her tears away gently. "Now, about moving in. Maxwell, hear me out." He took her hands in his. "Your mother's recovery will take months. The penthouse has a private elevator, state-of-the-art security, and enough space for her to have her own wing with a live-in nurse. You won't have to worry about stairs or accessibility." "It's not just about practicality," Naomi protested weakly. "It's about independence. I've spent my whole life taking care of myself, of my mother, and you've done an amazing job." His voice was soft but firm. "But you don't have to do it alone anymore. Let me take care of both of you." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. The screen showed a news alert, and Maxwell's face darkened as he read it. "Jai, what is it?" He handed her the phone. The headline made her blood run cold. "Walker Industries, CEO's secret romance with surrogate mother." "How?" Naomi's hands shook. "Someone at the fertility clinic must have leaked it." Maxwell's voice was controlled, but she could hear the anger underneath. "My PR team is already handling it." "Handling it how?" "By telling the truth." He stood, pulling her up with him. "Out that I fell in love with an extraordinary woman who makes me want to be a better man, that we're building a life together, that anyone who has a problem with that can deal with me personally." Naomi's heart swelled, but anxiety still gnawed at her. "The article, it makes me sound like a gold digger who seduced you. Then let me show them how wrong they are." He pulled her close. "Move in with me. Let the world see that this is real, that we're not hiding anything." She buried her face in his chest, breathing in his familiar woodsy scent. "Your board meeting tomorrow?" Will be interesting. He chuckled. But I've never cared less about what they think. Besides, our stock has risen 15% since I've been with you. Apparently, being in love agrees with my business acumen. Later that evening, as they sat with Rose in her private hospital room, Naomi watched Maxwell explain his proposal for their living arrangements. Her mother listened with sharp attention, occasionally asking pointed questions about security, privacy, and medical facilities. "And you're sure about this?" Rose asked finally, her eyes fixed on Maxwell. "About both of us, Mrs. Carter." "Rose," she corrected. "If you're going to be the father of my grandchildren, you should call me Rose." Maxwell's face softened. "Rose, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. Your daughter has changed everything for me. And you raised an incredible woman. I want to give you both the life you deserve." Rose studied him for a long moment, then smiled. "Well, baby," she said to Naomi, "I think you've found yourself a keeper." That night in Maxwell's penthouse, Naomi stood at the windows, looking out over the city. Strong arms wrapped around her from behind, and she leaned back into his embrace. "Penny, for your thoughts." She turned in his arms. "I was thinking about fate, how I walked into that fertility clinic looking for a way to save my mother, and instead found you." "No," he corrected softly. "Shan't we found each other?" His kiss was tender, full of promise and love. When they broke apart, Naomi took a deep breath. "Yes, yes, yes, we'll move in. Yes to building a life together. Yes to facing whatever comes next, as long as we face it together." Maxwell's smile lit up his entire face. "I love you, Naomi Carter." "I love you too, Maxwell Walker." She pressed a hand to her stomach, where their child might already be growing. "All of you." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars, witnesses to a love story that had defied all expectations. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, board meetings, public opinions, medical appointments, but tonight, in each other's arms, they were exactly where they were meant to be. The Walker Industries boardroom hummed with tension. Maxwell stood at the head of the table, his posture relaxed but his eyes sharp as steel as he faced the emergency board meeting. Headlines about his relationship with Naomi were splashed across every major news outlet, and the vultures were circling. "This is unprecedented." Richard Blackwell, the eldest board member, spoke first, a CEO becoming romantically involved with a surrogate mother. "The optics are disastrous." "The optics," Maxwell's voice cut through the room like ice, "are that I fell in love. If that damages our corporate image, perhaps we should examine what that says about our values." "Love?" another board member scoffed. "Mr. Walker, she's clearly after your—" "Choose your next words very carefully." Maxwell's tone made the room temperature drop several degrees. "The woman you're about to insult is the future Mrs. Walker." Silence descended over the boardroom. Maxwell hadn't planned to announce their engagement, mainly because he hadn't proposed yet, but the words felt right, natural, inevitable. Across town, Naomi was facing her own battle. Her office at the advertising agency was buzzing with whispers and stolen glances. She sat at her desk, trying to focus on her work while ignoring the notifications flooding her phone, journalists requesting comments, social media exploding with speculation, old acquaintances suddenly wanting to reconnect. "Girl, you're trending on Twitter." Jasmine, her best friend and co-worker, perched on her desk. "How are you holding up?" "I'm fine." Naomi tried to smile. "It's just overwhelming. Have you seen this?" Jasmine held up her phone, showing a particularly vicious gossip column. "They're calling you a calculated social climber who trapped New York's most eligible bachelor." Naomi's hand instinctively went to her stomach. They still didn't know if she was pregnant, but the possibility made every nasty comment sting more deeply. Her phone buzzed with a text from Maxwell. "Done with the board. Coming to get you. Pack your things." "Pack my things," she muttered. 20 minutes later, Maxwell strode into her office like he owned it, which, given his company's diverse portfolio, he might. Whispers erupted as he made his way to her desk, but he had eyes only for her. "Maxwell, what?" He pulled her into a kiss that left no doubt about his feelings, right there in front of her stunned co-workers. When they broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "Marry me." Naomi's heart stopped. "What? Marry me," he repeated, louder this time. "I was going to do this properly. Dinner, roses, ring. But I can't wait. I love you. Marry me." The office had gone completely silent. Naomi could feel dozens of eyes on them, could practically hear the phones recording this moment for social media, but looking into Maxwell's eyes, none of that mattered. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes." He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "I've been carrying this around for days, waiting for the perfect moment. Then I realized, every moment with you is perfect." The ring was stunning but tasteful, a beautiful oval diamond set in platinum, with smaller diamonds cascading down the band. As he slipped it onto her finger, applause erupted around them. "Now," Maxwell said, his eyes twinkling, "pack your things. We're moving you and your mother into the penthouse today." "Today, but—" "No buts. I've already arranged everything. Your mother's being discharged this afternoon, and the medical team is setting up her wing of the penthouse. The security situation at your apartment isn't acceptable anymore, not with the media attention." Naomi glanced around her office, at the faces both friendly and envious, watching their exchange. "I can't just leave my job." "Actually," her boss appeared beside them, "you can. Mr. Walker's company just acquired our agency. You've been promoted to creative director of their new in-house advertising division." Maxwell shrugged at her shocked expression. "I told you I've been busy this morning." The next few hours passed in a whirlwind. Movers packed up both her office and apartment with military precision. Rose was transported to the penthouse via private ambulance, where a team of nurses and physical therapists waited to help her settle in. By evening, Naomi stood in Maxwell's their master bedroom, surrounded by boxes and feeling slightly overwhelmed. "Having second thoughts?" Maxwell's voice came from behind her. She turned to face him. "About you. Never. About all of this." She gestured at the opulent surroundings. "It's a lot to take in." He pulled her close. "I know it's fast. I know it's overwhelming. But I also know that when something's right, you don't wait. And this, us, is right." "The board meeting," she said suddenly. "How bad was it?" "Let's just say several positions will be opening up soon." His smile was wolfish. "I don't tolerate anyone disrespecting the woman I love." "Maxwell," she touched his face. "So you can't fight every battle for me. Watch me." He kissed her palm. "Besides, our stock jumped another 10% after the engagement announcement. Turns out, the public loves a good love story." A knock at the door interrupted them. One of the security team entered with a tablet. "Sir, you need to see this." The tablet showed a new article, complete with photos. "Walker surrogate scandal deepens. Ex-boyfriend claims pregnancy was planned." Naomi's blood ran cold. "I've never had a boyfriend." Maxwell's face darkened. "Find out who's behind this. Now." After the security team left, Naomi sank onto their bed. "This is what you're going to face being with me. Constant scandals, lies, people trying to tear us apart." "Good." Maxwell sat beside her, taking her hands in his. "Let them try. Every attack, every lie, every attempt to come between us will only make us stronger." "Do you know why?" She shook her head. "Because they don't understand what we have. They see a CEO and a surrogate and think they know our story. They don't know about the way you scrunch your nose when you're thinking, about how you dance in the kitchen when you think no one's watching, about how you've made me feel more alive in these past weeks than I have in my entire life." Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. "I love you so much, it scares me sometimes." "That's good," he whispered, pulling her close. "Because I plan on spending the rest of my life making sure you never stop feeling that way." Later that night, as they lay in bed, Naomi's head on Maxwell's chest, she spoke softly. "I had a dream last night, about our baby." His hand stilled in her hair. "Yeah, she had your eyes, and my smile." Naomi lifted her head to look at him. "Is it crazy that I already love someone who might not even exist yet?" Maxwell's eyes shimmered with emotion. "No, because I already love her too, or him. As long as they're ours, I already love them with all my heart." Outside their window, the city that had witnessed their unlikely love story sparkled under a velvet sky. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new battles to fight. But tonight, in each other's arms, they were invincible. The morning sun streamed through the penthouse windows as Naomi sat in the kitchen, staring at the pregnancy test in her hands. Maxwell paced behind her, his usual composure nowhere to be found. 3 minutes, she whispered, setting the test face down on the counter. These 3 minutes felt longer than all the weeks of scandal and chaos they'd weathered together. The false ex-boyfriend story had exploded across the media, but Maxwell's security team had traced it back to its source, a desperate junior reporter working with a recently fired board member. "Whatever it shows," Maxwell said, stopping his pacing to wrap his arms around her from behind. "I love you. The timer on her phone chimed. Naomi's hands trembled as she reached for the test, but before she could turn it over, the elevator chimed. "Mr. Walker." His head of security burst in, looking uncharacteristically agitated. "The reporter who wrote the fake boyfriend story. He's going live on national morning news in 5 minutes with new evidence." Maxwell's jaw clenched. "Put it on." They moved to the living room, where the massive TV screen flickered to life. The reporter, young, ambitious, desperate for his big break, sat across from the morning show host. "So, you're claiming to have proof that Ms. Carter orchestrated this entire situation?" the host asked. "Absolutely," the reporter smiled smugly. "I have emails showing she researched Mr. Walker extensively before approaching the fertility clinic. The screen suddenly split, showing Maxwell's face. He'd called in live to the show. "I believe I can shed some light on those emails." Maxwell's voice was deadly calm. "My security team has thoroughly investigated your claims. The emails you're about to show are forgeries, created by former board member Richard Blackwell, after I removed him for attempting to manipulate company stock." The reporter's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about." "No. Then you'll be interested to know that Mr. Blackwell has already confessed to orchestrating this entire smear campaign. He's currently meeting with federal investigators about stock manipulation charges." The host leaned forward, smelling a bigger story. "Mr. Walker, are you saying this was all fabricated?" "I'm saying that when Naomi Carter walked into that fertility clinic, she was thinking only of saving her mother's life. I'm saying that falling in love with her was the most natural thing I've ever done. And I'm saying that anyone who tries to tarnish her reputation will answer to me." Back in the penthouse, Naomi watched with tears in her eyes as Maxwell continued to defend her on national television. Rose, who had wheeled herself in from her wing of the penthouse, took her daughter's hand. "That man loves you something fierce, baby." "He does, Mama." Naomi squeezed her mother's hand. "How are you feeling today?" "Strong enough to be a grandmother, if that's what that test on the counter says." Naomi's heart skipped. She'd forgotten about the test in all the chaos. "I haven't looked yet. I'm scared." "Of what? Having a baby with the man you love? Of everything changing again?" Rose turned her daughter's face toward her. "Baby, change brought you Maxwell. Change brought me this beautiful new life and the best medical care I could ask for. Sometimes the best things in life come from the changes we're most afraid of." The TV showed Maxwell ending the interview with a final, powerful statement. "Naomi is my future wife, the future mother of my children, and the love of my life. That's the only story that matters." As the segment ended, Naomi's phone buzzed with messages of support from friends, co-workers, and even strangers touched by Maxwell's defense of their love. The tide of public opinion was turning. The elevator chimed again, and Maxwell strode in, his eyes immediately finding Naomi. "I'm sorry I had to leave so suddenly. Did you?" She shook her head. "I was waiting for you." Rose smiled knowingly. "I'll give you two a moment." She wheeled herself back toward her wing, pausing to squeeze Maxwell's hand as she passed. Once they were alone, Naomi retrieved the test from the kitchen counter. Maxwell stood beside her, his hand steady on her lower back. "Together?" he asked. She nodded, and they turned the test over. 2 pink lines. "We're having a baby," Naomi whispered, her voice full of wonder. Maxwell's arms wrapped around her, lifting her off her feet in a joyful spin. When he set her down, she saw tears in his eyes. "A baby," he repeated, his hand moving to rest on her still flat stomach. "Our baby. Are you happy?" His answer was a kiss that left her breathless. When they finally broke apart, he pressed his forehead to hers. "I thought I knew what happiness was before I met you. I was wrong. This, you, our baby, our family, this is happiness. Even with all the scandal and drama. Especially with all that, because it showed me that nothing can come between us, that what we have is stronger than any obstacle." A soft cough interrupted them. Rose had returned, her eyes twinkling. "Well," Naomi's smile was radiant. "You're going to be a grandmother, Mama." Rose's joyful cry brought tears to everyone's eyes. Maxwell helped her stand from her wheelchair so she could properly hug them both. "My baby's having a baby," Rose whispered, holding Naomi close. Then she turned to Maxwell. "And you, son, are going to be an amazing father." The word father hit Maxwell like a physical force. He'd wanted an heir when this all started, had approached it like a business transaction. Now, looking at Naomi's radiant face, feeling the love that surrounded them, he realized how empty that would have been. "I need to show you something," he said suddenly, taking Naomi's hand. Both of you. He led them to a room they hadn't yet used, one of many in the massive penthouse. Inside, the walls were a soft cream color, and large windows let in the morning light. I've been working with designers, he admitted, just in case. He pressed a button, and panels in the walls slid open to reveal built-in shelves, a hidden changing table, space for a crib. We can change anything you don't like. Naomi walked the room in wonder, touching the soft fabrics, imagining their child growing up here. It's perfect. There's more. Maxwell seemed almost nervous. The next room. He opened a connecting door to reveal a fully equipped physical therapy room. I thought, Rose, for your recovery, and maybe someday for playing with your grandchild. Rose was openly crying now. You really do think of everything, don't you? Family takes care of family, Maxwell said simply, as they stood there, wrapped in each other's love. Naomi felt her baby's presence like a warm glow in her heart. This child would be born into so much love, would know nothing of the scandal and drama that had surrounded their beginnings. Oh, Sue, she suddenly remembered something. The appointment with Dr. Richardson is tomorrow. We can tell her the test was positive. Maxwell's phone buzzed, his assistant reminding him about an important merger meeting. He silenced it without looking. Some things were more important than business. I love you, he told Naomi, then bent to kiss her stomach. Both of you. Outside, the city that had tried to tear them apart now seemed to shine with possibility. Their love story had survived every test, emerged stronger from every challenge, and now, with their baby on the way and their family complete, they were ready to write their next chapter together. 6 months had transformed the Walker penthouse. The once minimalist space now held touches of warmth everywhere, family photos on the walls, Naomi's books scattered on side tables, Rose's favorite throw blankets draped over furniture. But the biggest change was in the nursery, where Maxwell stood in the early morning light, putting the finishing touches on a hand-painted mural. You're up early? Naomi's voice came from the doorway. She wore one of his dress shirts, her baby bump prominent beneath the fabric. At 6 months pregnant, she glowed with an inner radiance that took his breath away. Couldn't sleep, he admitted, setting down his brush. The mural needed to be perfect for the baby shower today. She walked over to admire his work, a whimsical scene of stars and moons, painted in soft silvers and golds. I still can't believe you did this yourself. I had a good teacher. He pulled her close, remembering the art classes he'd secretly taken just to create this gift for their daughter. The ultrasound had revealed a girl, and Maxwell had never seen Naomi cry so happily as when they learned the news. Mama's already up too, Naomi said, leaning into his embrace. The physical therapy is really working. She walked all the way to the kitchen by herself this morning. Maxwell smiled, remembering Rose's determination during her recovery. The past months had taught him more about family than his entire life before Naomi. He'd learned that strength wasn't about standing alone, but about holding each other up. The guests will start arriving at noon, he reminded her, including some surprises. Maxwell Walker, what did you do? Before he could answer, Rose appeared in the doorway, walking slowly but steadily with just a cane for support. Baby, you need to see the news. They moved to the living room, where the TV showed breaking news. Walker Industries announces groundbreaking medical care initiative. The camera cut to Maxwell at a press conference from the day before. In honor of my daughter's upcoming arrival, his recorded self announced, Walker Industries is launching the Rose Carter Foundation, providing full medical coverage for families facing catastrophic illness. No one should have to choose between saving a loved one and surviving. Naomi turned to him, tears in her eyes. You named it after Mama. She inspired it, Maxwell said simply. Your love for her, your willingness to do anything to save her, it made me realize how many others are fighting the same battle. Now they won't have to fight alone. Rose wiped her own tears. I don't know what to say. Say you'll help run it, Maxwell replied. We need someone who understands both the medical and human side of the struggle. The elevator chimed before Rose could respond. Dr. Richardson stepped out, early for the baby shower but carrying something that made Naomi gasp, her original file from the fertility clinic. I thought you might want this, the doctor said, handing Naomi the file, a reminder of how your story began. Naomi opened it, reading the notes from their first meeting. I was so scared that day, she admitted. Scared of the arrangement, scared of failing, scared of letting Mama down. And now, Doctor, Richardson asked with a knowing smile. Now I'm only scared of how much happiness my heart can hold before it bursts. The baby shower was everything they hadn't initially planned. warm, joyful, filled with genuine love rather than social obligations. Jasmine had organized games that had even the most serious executives wearing silly hats and guessing baby-themed charades. But the real surprise came when Maxwell clinked his glass for attention. "Before we continue the celebrations, I have an announcement." He took Naomi's hand, helping her stand. "We're getting married. Today. Right now." The room erupted in gasps and applause as panels in the walls slid open, revealing an intimate wedding setup. Flowers appeared as if by magic, and a judge stepped forward from among the guests. "But my dress," Naomi stammered. "Check the bedroom," Maxwell whispered. She found it hanging there, a beautiful maternity wedding gown in ivory silk, perfectly tailored to accommodate her bump. When she emerged, ready to become Mrs. Walker, the sight of Maxwell in his tuxedo, looking at her with such pure love, made her heart soar. Rose, dressed in an elegant mother-of-the-bride gown, walked her down the makeshift aisle. The ceremony was simple but profound, their vows speaking of a love that had transcended contracts and conventions to become something extraordinary. "I, Maxwell Walker, take you, Naomi Carter, to be my wife." His voice rang clear and strong. "Not because of any arrangement or obligation, but because loving you is as natural as breathing. You've shown me that true wealth isn't in bank accounts, but in the way you smile when you're happy, in the sound of our daughter's heartbeat, in the family we've built together. I promise to spend every day making sure you never doubt how deeply you're loved." Naomi's voice trembled with emotion as she responded, "I, Naomi Carter, take you, Maxwell Walker, to be my husband. You've turned every fear into hope, every ending into a beginning. What started as a desperate choice became the best decision of my life, not because of what you could give me, but because of who you are. I promise to love you, challenge you, and dance with you even when there's no music." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, their daughter kicked strongly, making them both laugh through their tears. They were already a family, the wedding just making official what their hearts had known all along. Later, as their guests danced and celebrated, Maxwell held Naomi close, swaying to the music. "Happy, beyond words," she murmured against his chest, "though I still can't believe you planned a surprise wedding." "I had help." He nodded toward Rose, who was dancing with one of the board members, looking years younger. "Your mother is quite the co-conspirator. She loves you, you know. We both do. And I love both of you." His hand rested on her bump. "All three of you." The party continued into the evening, but Maxwell and Naomi slipped away to the nursery for a quiet moment. The city lights twinkled beyond the windows as they stood together, his arms around her, both looking at the mural he'd painted for their daughter. "I never thought I could have this," Maxwell admitted softly. "I thought having an heir meant sacrificing love. But you showed me that the greatest legacy we can leave our daughter isn't wealth or status. It's showing her what real love looks like." Naomi turned in his arms. "And what does real love look like?" "Like you," he whispered, kissing her tenderly. "Like us. Like every moment that brought us here and every moment still to come." Their daughter kicked again, strong and sure, as if agreeing with her father's words. Outside, the city that had witnessed their unlikely love story sparkled under a velvet sky. But the real magic was here, in this room, in the family they'd built from an unconventional beginning. Love, they'd learned, doesn't follow contracts or conventions. It writes its own story, finds its own path, creates its own miracles. And sometimes, the greatest miracles come from the choices we make when we're most afraid. Choices that lead us not to the life we planned, but to the life we were always meant to live. Together, they faced the future, not as CEO and surrogate, but as husband and wife, as parents, as family. Their love story hadn't ended. It was just beginning its next beautiful chapter. The end. Thinking about the unexpected love between Maxwell and Naomi, and how sometimes fate surprises us in extraordinary ways, if you had to choose between following a safe and meticulously planned blueprint for your life, or risking everything for a love that defies all your expectations, which path would you choose? Maxwell chose to open his heart, even when it meant rewriting everything he believed about love and family. Have you ever experienced a moment when you had to choose between following the plan or following your heart? Your participation in the channel is very important. Please leave your opinion in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment your thoughts. Your participation is very important to us. See you next time.